So when you have a quote unquote more normal market, you can predict how many showings you should be having. You can probably approximate how much activity you'll have at an open house. And you could predict when the property will sell if it's priced correctly. And all those things are important when you don't have the active market we're currently experiencing. So let me get on Bright here and see if I can share my screen. Okay. Now, there's a difference between a CMA and a supply-demand analysis, and I'll explain that to you. Tiffany also has some paperwork that I sent her a few weeks ago that she could share with you about the process. Tiffany, have you shared that with them, or do you have it available?
Yeah, I'll drop it into the chat box now so they can download it.
Okay. All right. So there's, let me explain to you that the difference between a CMA, pardon me, and a supply-demand analysis is you're not going to be as specific. So you're not going to enter property criteria. And you need to be careful because you can skew the results to say what you want to say if you enter things about the property. For instance, when we do this search the first time, we want the market to tell us what's going on. So we don't want to enter criteria about the house. It doesn't matter whether it has a 1-car or a 2-car garage. It doesn't matter if it has 1 bath or 2 baths. So what we're really looking for is an apples to apples comparison. So let me do a search here and we'll show you. What we're concerned about is primarily, first and foremost, a price range.
We don't see your screen yet.
All right, let me do it again here. See if I can share that. Now, can you see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're going to do a price range and we're going to do a school district. And this assumes that you know approximately what the house value is. So you've already done your CMA and you know that it's going to be X, Y, or Z price range. And we'll just pick one and we'll do your area so it makes more sense. Now, I'm not familiar with your area in Princeton. So first and foremost, you start with school district because it is truly the most similar from property to property, because different school districts have different attributes. They have different taxing rates. They may have different courses that are offered. Some bigger schools have maybe girls water polo, and that's the only school in town that has it. So you want to look first and foremost at the school district. If you can't find any information, then you want to look at an adjoining school district or one that you have knowledge of that's considered equal to the other school district that your subject is in. And then you want to look at price range. So what's the school district where your office is in Princeton? Did somebody help me?
Jayashree, I think you're most familiar with the school district in Princeton, right?
Yeah, it's West Windsor.
Westminster?
Windsor.
Windsor.
West Windsor. And is that a good school district or?
Yeah, it's a very good school district.
Okay, so which one is it here? Is it Mercer or
The
Middlesex?
first one, Mercer.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have the school district. And we're going to look at, almost all of these statuses. And again, I have just basic knowledge of New Jersey. What's an average price range in that school district?
From 400 to million.
Okay, so that's a pretty expensive area. Okay. All right. Well, let's just do 400 to 500. And we're going to do 6 months at first. You can see we have 39 matches. So we have some data. Now, that's not a huge number of results, but it's fine. Let's just look at them. You may have to help me understand what they are. All right, so we have it's sorted into the actives, pendings, closed. So they're sorted by status. So what we call the actives is your supply because they are available. So we have, looks like 7, right? Yep, 7 available. That's your supply. And now your demand is going to be the pending and the closed. So we have 3, 4, 5 pending. And then closed, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21 closed. Now, this is pretty simple math. So you have a total demand for the last 6 months of 26. So that's the number of months we searched by the number of pending and closed. That makes sense to everybody?
Yes.
So that's an average of 4 per month over the last 6 months. All right, now this is not maybe completely normal because of the COVID crisis and the shutdown. We probably have fewer sales than otherwise would have occurred had we not gone through this COVID thing. So the process is still the same. Just know that these answers may be a little different if you do this either further back in the past, or if you choose to do it again next month, it's going to be probably different because of what COVID did to the market. So the 5 pending, the 21 closed is a total 26, divided by 6 months is an average of 4. Always round down, don't round up. So 4 per month is the average rate of sales. Now, we have 7 active. So we have just about a 2-month supply. And that is considered a seller's market. As I said before, the average days on the market in the Harrisburg area is normally 90 to 120 days. And that's a point where most people are comfortable waiting that long to sell their house. If you get more than that, then that's a buyer's market. And a couple of things are going to occur. Right now, cost help is harder to get. It's harder to win in competing offers with your buyers asking for cost help. Your seller can expect to see good activity. We know with 4 sales a month, that's an average of 1 a week. You should be having a minimum of 1 showing a week in the 4 to 500 price range in that school district in the current market. And that's simple math based on the numbers of this search. So I don't think that you would have a large number of people at an open house. I don't think you'd have a large number of showings, except for the unknown that COVID brings to this market. Never having worked in Princeton, I don't know if a year ago it was double what the current rate of sales is. So that would skew these results dramatically because of the increase in the number of transactions. So I usually put this on a piece of paper. You can put it on the bottom of the search, printed blank page. I would put the number 7 actives, that equals your supply. 5 pendings plus 21 closed equal your demand. Your total is divided by the number of months you searched. That's your sales per month. So that gives you a very good understanding of what's happening in the marketplace. Now, I normally do not search a short period of time because there's no trend is not made in let's say 1 month or even 2 months. I usually search 3 months or greater, depending on what kind of property results you have. If you have too few results, it doesn't give you a good look at the market. And if you have too many, it also, it kind of just dilutes the accuracy.
What do you
Let
think
me
would be
read-
like a minimum number that you would use, Gary?
This one is fine, 30 to 40 results. I think that I definitely prefer, if I'm doing a presentation, to have the results fit on 1 or 2 pages. I don't want to print this and do this calculation and have 4, 5, or 6 pages to look at. It's too much information. It tends to confuse people. But in a normal market, this information can be so powerful that your presentation sometimes doesn't have any other parts of it that the people, the sellers are concerned about. You can also use this to show a buyer that he's got to make a better offer, or they find out the hard way. They make an offer or 2 and they lose them and they learn that way. But the particular detail here is, you notice we don't have any house information. So there are going to be situations where the price range will have attached houses and detached houses. And not knowing Princeton, I don't know if one sells as well as the other. I don't know at this point if there are townhouses included in this search or not. So you may want to refine it further if you're searching a price range where both types of properties are competing with each other, townhouses and single families, detached. So that would be maybe one modification that I would further make depending on the subject property that I was working on. So now, if I was going to do this for a subdivision, then I'd do it a little bit differently. If I'm doing analysis of a piece of ground, there's lots of things to know that you have to figure into the equation, shall we say. And I'm not going to get into all that because it's much more in depth. But I would look at, probably for a new home subdivision, I'd look at new home sales in the school district for probably the last 2 years. It will probably be a smaller number, not always, but you need a longer term to have a good idea of what the trend is. And you also need to understand what's competing and what's not. you know, in a new home subdivision, there may not be any available in that school district. I mean, I don't know this area. You know, if it's a build-up area, if it's all city, then there aren't any new constructions. So maybe you guys don't do any new construction, but we do here, and I do represent a builder and a subdivision. And this gentleman looks to me for pricing on his lots. Instead of him telling me what they're going to be, he gives me the luxury of giving him input and suggesting what those prices should be. And the prediction of the numbers of sales and so forth have come into play several times. And this subdivision has 297 lots in it. So we're going to be there for a while. So are there any questions on the differences in the process between a CMA and what I just showed you here in this search? Do you all understand it?
J.C. Renta, do you have any questions?
No,
No, no questions.
Okay, now, give me just a second here. This, is there a school district that you could tell me competes with this school district? Is there another one that's nearby that's as good? Or let me put it a different way. If you were showing clients $400,000 to $500,000 houses, what area would you show them besides this school district?
it would be in Princeton, but I'm not sure about the school district there. I don't know the name or what it is in Princeton.
Okay, so let me look and see if I can find it.
You could do the other one, the one that's in Middlesex. 'Cause that-
Oh, okay, yeah, you could do in Middlesex, but I don't know which it will be good. I mean, if you're going to ask me if which is good, of course, this one is better. I know that much, but I don't know that's why I said I'm not sure about the name of the other place, the school district, name of the school district.
All right, well,
It's the one in middle. I believe the one in Middlesex is High School North, and I think the one in Mercer is High School South. So, and they're
Okay.
both very good schools.
But they both are
Well,
competitive.
let's just put the other one in and see. All right, so now we have almost double the results. So my guess up front would be that it's going to be a similar result. So let's take this first one out. I'm going to just stick with Middlesex. All right, we had 39 before, now we have 38. So it's probably very similar. They probably do compete. Oh, it isn't. Look at this. Look at all the actives here. Okay, so the only criteria we changed was the school district, and we have triple the actives. One pending.
So, excuse me, let me just ask you. So this is the supply and demand is not, it's not like what the CMA has done based on like the school system and everything. Is that how it is?
This is simply what's the demand in the marketplace. It's not an analysis of what the value of the property is. You do a CMA first to get a price range, and then you bracket the price range. Let's say your CMA suggested a $450,000 price. We went 400 to 500 to bracket that price range so that you get a real good idea of what's going to happen with your listing. But let me just show you the difference here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 and 6 months that are closed. There are a couple that are temporary off the market. But look at all the actives. So you're selling about 1 1/3 per month in this school district, but without counting them, there have to be 15 actives divided by 1 1/3. Here you have a much stronger buyer's market. The other school district is a seller's market. You understand that?
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you.
All right, so in my opinion, these school districts are not equal. Clearly, people prefer one school district over the other, not only because there are so many actives versus so many solds, there just aren't as many solds as there are in the other school district in the same time frame. So this suggests to me that the one school district is far superior in desirability for some reason. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that's what this suggests to me. Again, I don't work in your marketplace, so I don't know for sure. Usually the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, the other school district, I know for sure, for a fact that it is better than this one.
Okay, all right. Now, a couple other things you can use in a more, what I would call normal marketplace. The withdrawns and the expireds are what constitutes your failure rate. And that wording alone can help you get a price reduction. So the bigger the number of expireds and withdrawns, and you can see there aren't many in this marketplace, even in this school district, there aren't many right now, but that's your failure rate. So if you talk to your seller and you explain that failure rate, sometimes the expires and withdrawns will equal the pendings and the closed. And when that happens, your failure rate can approach 50%. So that means 1 out of every 2 listings is not selling. So when you get into markets like that, helping a seller understand, you've got to be in the top 20% of condition of all the houses and the bottom 20% of the price in the range you're in because of the extreme competition for buyers. Now, that's not happening in most areas. So there are some other words and phrases that you can use to help get your client to understand what's really going on. But there is, in my opinion, a lot of competition in this school district because of all these actives and the very small number of sales. So if you have a listing in the other school district, you're more likely to get paid than this school district. You need to be very aggressive in addressing your seller in this school district because there's a lot of competition for the small number of sales that are occurring. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I normally print out one of these one-line formats. The pictures aren't important. They are in a CMA. Here it's about the numbers. You know, we're not saying this house or another house is similar. We're saying that in this price range, the buyers of this price range, first of all, prefer the other school district. And then secondly, you're going to have fewer showings in the school district that's on the screen. You're going to have fewer attendees at an open house. You're going to have longer market times. And your failure rate is going to get bigger because typically the markets start to pick up in the spring. They're good over summer. They tend to fall off in the fall, and then they're lower in the winter. Most people want to move in the summer. Kids are off school. You know, you don't have weather to deal with in the move. It's what's referred to as a rolling sine wave. It's like the waves coming in on the beach. They're pretty regular most times. They're pretty consistent, and they're repetitive. And generally speaking, the real estate market follows the same thing. It picks up in the spring and summer, and it falls off in the fall and winter. So I would imagine most of these listings were listed within the last maybe 3 months. So these listings with a slower number of sales, they're going to be, if you do this search later on in the year, there are going to be more expireds and withdrawals. The failure rate's going to be higher because of the slower sales in this school district. So it's a snapshot. I always include it in my presentation to sellers so that it's one thing to give people an opinion. It's another to be able to back it up with, the statistics and the numbers can be very powerful with the words that you use. If I printed these two searches side by side, it would be black and white as to what's going on and which is preferable.
Now, Karen, how would you when you're an agent right now and you're going out for a presentation, you have this with your CMA, and you have this, you're listing a house in this one, not the other one. How would you present that to them? What would your driving point be there? How would you close them with this?
The house needs to be probably staged. It needs to be manicured. It needs to be the price has to be sharp, the property has to be sharp, or you're likely not to succeed in this school district, in this market. It's that simple. So if you got somebody that's real big on their number and they're not the best housekeeper, you may have a problem with it in this school district, in this marketplace. So my focus would be on presentation, professional pictures. They do these now where they simulate them at dusk. If it's a bigger property, real estate wise, land wise, drone footage, there's any type of marketing that could give you an edge, but it doesn't negate the fact that the seller only controls two things. There are 7 reasons people buy houses. This is included in the paperwork that I've passed along to Tiffany, but there's only 2 of the 7 reasons that sellers control. And those 2 reasons are price and condition. You cannot change the location. You can't move the house most times. The lot is either good or bad, small, large, driveway steep. Most of the time, features, you don't add a pool to sell your house. Not most people don't. So the features are pretty fixed. Sometimes you have to put on a new roof, but that's because of the appearance or the age of it. So I suggest you look at the paperwork that I sent to Tiffany. The sellers control 2 of the 7 reasons. Why would Mr. and Mrs. Seller, why would you pick an agent that doesn't understand why people buy houses? Here are the reasons, the 7 reasons people buy houses, and here's what's happening in your school district versus you could do this search for any surrounding school district, whether there's 1, 2, or 3, however many adjoin it, and you can show them how their house is going to compete versus the other houses. And it's fact. It's not something we created or manufactured. It's not just a screen with objects on it. These are the actual results. And you all know how picky Bright is about trying to, the accuracy and policy people are on us all the time about details not being correct. Pardon me. So this can become very powerful in getting the seller to do or to hear what you're saying. Any other comment, Tiffany?
I don't think so. I mean, does this make sense, Jay and Renzo? And were you able to download the file out of the chat box?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I have the file.
Did you have
All right.
questions about the file or anything that we sent over that he could answer since?
Well, let me just address it briefly. The 7 reasons are something that we developed here probably 15 years ago. We sat down, we had a brainstorming meeting. They call them better things now, but a mastermind didn't exist at the time. But those are universal. They apply everywhere. And those are the reasons that people buy houses. And I can use that form when I walk through a property, and I'll either talk to the seller about it or I'll make notes on that form as to what what it is about the property I'm looking at that fits into those 7 reasons. And then I use that as a basis for developing my wording for my MLS remarks. And I try and be a little more eloquent than just saying, new kitchen, new bath, new floors, new this, new that, that, okay, but it doesn't read well. It's not very interesting. So, and I'm not a professional writer, but I try and find something that's more interesting than just listing this feature and that feature and another feature, which is pretty monotonous. The other thing that I sometimes use is why, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, why would you hire an agent that doesn't understand why people buy houses? So you can use any of these forms that we're talking about or that are in that package. You can use the supply demand analysis. There's a lot of agents that don't do it. You should know that an appraiser is required to do something similar to this. Every appraisal has a limited supply demand analysis in it. It may not be as involved as going to another school district like we did here today, but it is used by lenders when looking at values and evaluating properties. Everything in that packet can be used in a buyer or a seller situation to help you get where you need to go, whether that's a fair counteroffer or a fair expectation of, maybe you tell Mr. and Mrs. Seller, okay, we're going to go at your number, but if we don't have 4 showings this month, then we got to have a serious talk about prices, because the market's showing 4 sales, and if the buyers are not looking at your house, you are not going to win. You're being outcompeted by the other houses on the market, and you will fail. We will fail if we don't make an adjustment to either the price and or the condition. So wording like that, I mean, everybody speaks differently. I tend to be very direct. So it comes off very matter-of-factly, and there's no refuting it. Now, one last thought is this is a moving target. So, 4 weeks from now, it may not look like it does this week. So maybe you go back to them with another one, save this one, print it, put it in your loop, or keep it in a file in your computer, and then do another one. If it hasn't sold, do another one in 4 weeks, and then show them the what's under contract group, the pending. Here, there's only one. How does their house compare to this pending house? This house outcompeted you. It sold, yours didn't. Let's look at this house or these houses and compare them to yours, and let's see if you and I can agree, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, with what we're doing wrong. Why did buyers choose this house or these houses over your house? And it leads you right down the path of where you need to go to get the price in line, even if you agree that up front to take it at their number and you know that that's not the right number. This will help you get there. All right, any other questions?
Any other questions, guys?
No, this makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. I'm happy to go over it again. Tiffany, if you want to, pass that around. You said you made it available, but if there's questions after we get off this, just email me. And if you want to have another discussion, I don't have a copy of it in front of me right now, but I can go over the wording. I've given you most of the wording that I use in different circumstances, but believe me when I tell you, it's powerful. You can make it very powerful. You need to learn it so that you're comfortable explaining it. But when I can look a seller in the eye and tell them, here's what's going to happen and here's not what's happening and here's why, here's what's sold instead of yours, here's what you need to do and this is why, you can't refute it. I mean, you can disagree, but you can't refute it. So it can be very effective and very powerful. if you have an individual that wants to sell their home. There are always people that are just, testing the market, but
Yeah, always. Well, yeah, I recorded our session that way. We can have it, and we have the PDFs that you gave us. So what I'll do is I'll post that for some of our agents, and then if we get some people that want to come back in and have a meeting and go over it with you, that'd be awesome.
I'll be happy to do again. And please know, I have people in my office here. Some folks they can't make that jump from CMA to supply demand. They want to put in 2 bedrooms. They want to put in a 2-car. That's not what this is about. We want to know simply what's happening in the price range. So expect somebody won't quite get it.
It's an or. It's not an or. It's an and.
You need to do both, in my opinion.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, Gary, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate you jumping on and helping us out. Renzo J. Sharif, you don't have anything else, and I guess we can let you go.
Yes,
Thank you. And email me any questions you have.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.